Audrey Hepburn is known as an icon of the golden age of Hollywood. She is also known for keeping her private life exactly that, private. But her sons and many other helpful sources have helped me to understand a little bit more of what it was like to live Audrey Hepburn's life, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. What happened behind Audrey Hepburn? I'm going to start off by talking about Audrey Hepburn's parents. Her father was Joseph Victor Anthony Rustin. He was an interesting character when he was involved in her life. Rustin was convinced that he was related to Scottish royalty. He wasn't. When he married Audrey's mother, he double-barreled his name to make it look like he was richer. This theme persisted throughout his marriage to Baroness Ella van Heemstra. Rustin married Ella purely for her title, money, and the benefits that come with being a baron. During the time that Audrey was young, it was the popular belief that what Hitler was doing would turn Germany into a prosperous nation. This was before the persecution of Jews was widespread news. Both Rustin and Heemstra were fascists, and when Audrey was 6, her father walked out to join the fascist group the Black Shirts.
Please don't leave us, Father! Father! Father!
Her mother, the Baroness, was around, but she was a very cold presence in Audrey's life. Ella was a firm believer that raising your child with strict regulations was the way to go. Audrey's mother was cool, restrained, and serious. According to Donald Spoto, she was a serious mother who always had her daughter's best interest at heart. But the warmth in that heart was cooled by the conviction that dignity forestalled cuddling, and that anything more than a good night's kiss was indecorous. Ella rarely gave compliments to Audrey, and even after she became famous, Ella was a dignified baroness to the core. Rustin, her father, never changed his mindset on what Hitler was doing. However, the Baroness did. When Ella heard of the potential for war, she took Audrey and her 2 stepbrothers to Holland because she was convinced the Nazis wouldn't invade a neutral country. But on May 10, 1940, the Germans invaded Holland anyway, and Audrey saw the safe life she had lived fall apart under war. By this time, Ella had seen the horrors of what Hitler was doing firsthand, and retracted her beliefs on fascism. The Dutch army was a defensive one, and after Germany invaded Holland, they quickly surrendered. Audrey said that, "I saw German trucks coming in, and in 5 days, Holland fell. The occupation. That's such a small word to cover the eternity of every day after the Germans came to our country, looted it, and stayed on to make slaves of us." Audrey's mother was quick on her feet to keep Audrey safe during the war. She changed Audrey's name to sound more Dutch, and enrolled her into a Dutch school, where Audrey was thrown into a school system where she didn't even speak the language. This was the beginning of what would become Audrey's work ethic. She stayed up late after school, not only completing her lessons, but also working to learn Dutch so she could communicate. The war continued, and the Germans became more controlling of what the Dutch people could do. Radios were forbidden, teachers became rare, and all Jewish people lost their positions and went into hiding. The Dutch people were starving. One of the most famous stories of Audrey Hepburn's life is having to eat tulip bulbs and grass bread. Terror and chaos reigned. In 1941, Audrey's older stepbrother Alex disappeared. While fighting for the Dutch resistance, he was forced to go into hiding until the end of the war. Everyone thought that Alex had died. In 1942, Audrey's older brother Ian, who also worked for the Dutch resistance, was put into a labor camp. This happened to over 400,000 Dutchmen. Around the same time, Audrey experienced another tragedy.
Don't discount anything you hear or read about the Nazis. It was worse than you could ever imagine. We saw my relatives put against a wall and shot. This was a turning point in Audrey's life as she and her mother began to work for the Dutch resistance. Many people believe that there was one thing that kept Audrey Hepburn going through the war: dancing. Audrey loved to dance, and she used her training during the war. After Audrey could stumble through Dutch enough, her mother switched her into dance and music lessons, and she immediately fell in love.
She and some of her other classmates gave what are called black performances. They performed silent dance routines with blackout curtains to raise money for the Dutch resistance.
At the end of these dances, people would approach Audrey and give her notes, which she would hide in her shoes and deliver the next day. That way people could communicate without the German censors that were everywhere reading what they wrote. Audrey had many close encounters with German soldiers, but her childlike nature always ensured that she escaped.
Years passed, and the war eventually ended, and the Dutch people began to recover from the horrors that they had experienced. Many casual observers don't know this about the early years of Audrey's life, but the war would shape many of the experiences Audrey later had, and would influence how she interacted with everyone for the rest of her life. That's why it's important for people to know what goes on behind Audrey Hepburn, and why these experiences are important to learn and talk about. After the destruction of World War II, Audrey was able to continue to take ballet lessons. Here she met her first real mentor, Sonia Gaskell. Sonia admired Audrey's dedication and ambition, but was worried about the effects that the war would have on her form and muscle tone. Nevertheless, Audrey threw herself into training and began what would form into an impeccable work ethic. Sonia presented her with the opportunity to travel abroad in London under the prestigious Marie Rambert. Audrey gladly accepted, and both she and her mother moved to London.
Marie Rambert, also known as Madame Wasp, was a strict and hard teacher to thrive under. Students often ran crying from her classes, but Audrey was determined. She auditioned in front of Rambert and was told to come back that spring when she would be entered with a scholarship.
Now Audrey Hepburn had 3 months before schooling and nothing to do. So she went out looking for any job she could do to afford living once school began.
This marks her first screen appearance. 2 friends from Holland approached her, asking for her to be an extra in their film, Dutch in 7 Lessons, and Audrey accepted. After this, she returned to London and did whatever she could to find money, anything from modeling to clerking. Her mother also picked up any job she could so that she could help support her daughter. By the first summer at Madame Rambert's, Audrey was given some devastating news. Madame Rambert told her that although she admired her dedication, she was too tall and too thin, and because of her inability to train during the war, her technique was sorely lacking compared to the other girls. Now that she was forced out of Madame Rambert's, Audrey returned to her mother and began to look for theater work. Audrey started on stage with the show High Button Shoes. She had to learn a new way of dancing and how to dance in syncopation. After that closed, she moved on to little walk-on comedy bits in the show Tartar Sauce. After 433 performances of Tartar Sauce, the director, Cécile Landau, decided to continue with a sequel, Piquante Sauce, and invited Audrey Hepburn to come back in the sequel. She accepted and worked as many as 3 shows a night. "I worked like an idiot," Hepburn was quoted to say when recalling that time. Audrey also started to get better modeling jobs and slowly started to get recognition from movie makers. Audrey realized that the style of acting for theater and film were very different, and so she was going to have to learn how to act on screen. She began lessons from Felix Aylmer, who taught her to concentrate intelligently on what I was doing. According to Aylmer, she had the natural poise and motion, but she had to learn how to read for film and project her soft-spoken voice.
Using her fame from Landau's productions and connections from Aylmer, she began to book small roles in films, including
Hello. Who wants a tiggy?
Hello, sweetie. Now, I'm smoking cigars from now on. What about a date later on this evening? I feel like celebrating. Look, I don't want that old goat in the telephone box to see us talking.
Why?
Well, don't think me mad, but just for the moment, I'm not allowed to talk to women.
Don't I count as a woman? Good morning. Who? Mr. Gilby. Oh, hello, Alfred.
Listen, honey, I want you to do something for me. If my wife turns up today, tell her Gloria was a greyhound.
Greyhound? Oh, really, Alfred? But what about the registration book?
Oh, dear, oh, dear. Look, I tell you what, just put bitch in brackets.
Mm-hmm. What?
Ah, Chiquita, Chiquita. I hoped I'd see you. You run along and get yourself that little birthday present.
Oh, but how sweet, Alfred. Thanks.
You seem to have accomplished.
Of course. You've been through it too.
Yes, indeed. That should be a bond between us, Rodney. We both know we can never love again.
But we can be friends, can't we?
Of course, Rodney, dear. If you promise never to try to make love to me.
Oh, I promise. Darling Eve, you're very sweet.
Oh, Rodney, don't call me darling.
Darling.
That didn't happen, Rodney.
Isn't it? Neither did that.
She received her first supporting role in the film Secret People, where she even gets to use her dancing skills on screen. The Secret People was a drama that commented on the past war, and although Audrey lacked technique, people were caught by her performance. Her technique, in other words, was a complete lack of technique, and so the feelings of her characters were not something deliberated, labored, or contrived. We cannot know if or how much Audrey thought of her own wartime past in Arnhem during the scene in which a bomb explodes while she is dancing.
During the filming of her next film, Monte Carlo Baby, is the story of fame and discovery.
Dans la boulangerie de la rue de Ménil, montant.
Right, please.
J'ai dans la vitrine repéré de beaux croissants.
Audrey, why don't you tell your millionaire boyfriend to bring his boat here and take us for a sail?
Oh, I don't tell James what to do.
Too bad.
But I could ask him. All right, again.
Again?
Ils sont embêtants avec leur cinéma. On peut plus passer nulle part. Very good. Now spin. Very smart.
How was that?
Great. But what? What is this?
What are you up to now?
Nothing. Where did it go? Are you hiding it in there? Oh!
Where did you learn that? You in love with the clown?
No, but that's what I'm going to say the next time somebody asks me. Now, again. Look at her. She's charming.
You'd give this all up for a handsome millionaire.
Yes. I need to make a phone call. Vite, dépêchez-vous.
Well, Miss Hepburn, I will be brief. I want you to come to New York and play the part of Gigi on Broadway. You can read for our producers next week in London.
You mean a play, Madame Colette?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to act in a play?
Yes. Anita Luce, a difficult woman but an excellent dramatist, has adapted my novel for the stage.
On Broadway? Oh, Audrey. Oh, I'm sorry, Madame. There is a mistake. It is an honor that you have asked me, but it is impossible. I wouldn't be able to do it because I can't act.
You won't have to act anything, darling. You are Gigi.
Kathleen Nesbitt, who played her aunt in the play, took Audrey under her wing and after rehearsal every day worked with her on projection and diction. Kathleen was the next mentor Audrey had after Madame Rambert. Once Gigi opened, Audrey Hepburn at 22 became a Broadway star overnight. Around the same time, Audrey was referred to do a screen test for the movie Roman Holiday. Director William Wyler asked for the cameras to be kept rolling, and when Audrey began talking as her natural self, they found that she was perfect to star in the movie. Audrey signed, agreeing that she would go to Rome after Gigi closed.
Seriously, Audrey, tell us about the war. You spent the whole war in Arnhem.
Yes.
Wasn't it pretty awful?
Yes, it was very bad.
But did you entertain the people there yourself? Is that how you began?
No, not quite how I began. I went to ballet school once I knew I was settled there for quite a while. Didn't know how long the war was going to last, so I went to ballet school and learned to dance. And in about 1944, about a year before the end of the war, I was quite capable of performing. And it was a sort of some way in which I could make some contribution, and I did give performances to collect money for the underground, which always needed money.
And what about the Germans? What did they do about it?
Let's know about it.
In February of 1953, filming for Roman Holiday started. Although a somewhat new experience for Audrey, she caught on fast and was easy to work with. By the time it was released, she had earned star billing alongside Gregory Peck. Once again, Audrey became a success overnight, starting in what would be a lifelong career in film and theater. Now that Audrey Hepburn was famous, she began her next film, Sabrina. This marked her first movie with a Givenchy-designed wardrobe.
It also started her film affair with co-star William Holden. Holden fell deeply in love with Audrey while filming, and Audrey returned that love until she found out he had had a vasectomy and shut down the affair. Audrey's next job was in the play Ondine. She played aside Mel Ferrer, who she had met during the filming of Roman Holiday. After 8 months of rehearsal, Mel and Audrey had fallen in love and were married in Bergenstock.
Very soon after their marriage began what I like to call the Ferrer effect. From the start, Mel was very jealous of Audrey's success and did many things to try to control that success to bounce off of him. All of the attempts were miserable failures and ended up making him look worse in the end, though.
The next film Audrey did was War and Peace alongside Mel. The film's technical elements went over its head, and the 3.5-hour film did not sell well in the end. Next was Funny Face, the first musical Audrey did, and the opportunity to dance alongside Fred Astaire. Mel was very jealous of Audrey's excitement to act with Astaire. The entire filming process was not as enjoyable. Astaire was short-tempered with the inexperienced Audrey, and Audrey was nervous about filming something outside of her comfort zone. In the end, the lively musical showed off Givenchy's elegant designs and was a very successful film.
I want to step out down the Champs-Élysées,
do some window shopping in the Rue de la Paix. That's for me. Bonjour, Paris.
Strictly tourist, you can titter and jeer. All we want to say is Lafayette, we are here on a spree. Bonjour, Paris. Bonjour.
Audrey's next 3 projects did not go over well.
Love in the Afternoon had her playing love interest alongside Gary Cooper, who was more than twice her age and looked even older on screen. Green Mansions and The Mayorling, both collaborations with Mel, were flops, but her next film rectified these 3 past projects.
Sister, have you considered the seriousness of what you're doing?
Yes.
Sister, is there nothing we can do?
Nothing.
On this fateful autumn day, the nun called Sister Luke, under special and extraordinary circumstances, was released from all her vows. She took leave of her convent forever, because, in her own words, she was no longer a nun. Only afterwards did she reveal to the world her truly remarkable and very personal story. This is that story. As a book, The Nun's Story swiftly became the most gripping and dramatic bestseller of this decade. Now a tremendous motion picture, it pierces deep into the fascinating secrets of a seldom, if ever, seen world. Deeper into the pageant and violence of the teeming African Congo. And deepest of all, into the conscience of a young and beautiful girl.
You will be assisting Dr. Fortunati. He is a genius and a devil. But remember, he is also a man, a bachelor, and I'm afraid an unbeliever. Don't ever think for an instant, sister, that your habit will protect you.
You will search your memory in vain for motion picture excitement and entertainment to compare it with. There is no equal. There has never been a motion picture like The Nun's Story.
meeting Father Merlin will too. Religion hasn't made him tense and disciplined.
A nun is a disciplined person.
Yes, but not necessarily tense. As a surgeon, it's not my business to pry into the mind, but I'd say that tension is the sign of an exhausting inner struggle.
Do you realize that every time you make me talk to you like this, I should go down on my knees before my sisters and proclaim my fault?
Next came Audrey's most research-intense work, The Nun Story. Based on a true story, for this project Audrey had to research the real-life Sister Luke and several other aspects of what it was like to become a nun. Director Fred Zinman was very specific and detail-oriented about his films. Audrey learned how to use the surgical instruments properly, as well as what it was like to be a nun. In fact, as a part of the preparation for the filming, all the actors playing nuns spent several days in a convent to experience the daily rituals. Sister Luke actually came to observe some of the filming and to get to know Audrey. Audrey related very much to Sister Luke's story, and they became soulmates by the movie's release in 1959. With still no technical experience, this film proved that Audrey could play much more than the Cinderella role she was typecast into. An unsuccessful picture deemed by many as inherently racist, The Unforgiven was Audrey's next film. Mel suggested that she work on this piece, and without knowing much about it, she agreed. She did this to keep the slowly failing marriage going between them. Audrey was pregnant during filming, and during one of the filming sessions, her horse bucked and Audrey suffered an accident.
As we reported earlier, Audrey Hepburn, beloved star of stage and film, was thrown by a horse today while shooting a John Huston film in Durango, Mexico. Miss Hepburn is reported in critical but stable condition with neck and back injuries and will be flown back home for treatment later today. Sources close to Miss Hepburn report that she's several months pregnant with her first child. Audrey Hepburn's husband, actor and director Mel Ferrer, flew to Mexico to accompany her back for treatment.
It was rumored this accident caused her a second miscarriage, but Audrey recovered and finished filming the movie. She was very heartbroken at her second miscarriage, for her one wish in life was to become a mother. The next time she became pregnant, she took a year off from work, and Sean Hepburn Ferrer was born on July 17, 1960.
Audrey's most iconic film was surrounded by controversy. First, Audrey did not want to do the movie. She was approached with the book, and she enjoyed it, but was unsure of whether she could play the outgoing Holly Golightly. She also wanted to focus on being a mother. But Mel pushed her once again into doing the film.
See why I didn't want Hepburn for this? She can't eat, that's why. Marilyn Monroe is who I wanted. Marilyn Monroe knows how to eat.
Audrey's the nicest star I ever worked with.
I don't write nice.
Next, the author of the novella, Truman Capote, did not want Audrey to do the movie. He was convinced only Marilyn Monroe could play his Holly Golightly, but Monroe's manager was unsure if she was right for the part, so the role went to Audrey.
You heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way.
Next, there was the controversy over the iconic song Moon River. The story goes that in the first screening of the movie, the first thing the producers said was, One thing's for sure, that fucking song's gotta go. Audrey sprang from her chair and Mel had to restrain her as she cried, "Over my dead body." The song ended up staying in the picture, making it Audrey's most iconic moment. Lastly, there were many themes of LGBTQ characters. Paul was originally gay, Holly bisexual, and many of the side characters were also considered controversial. There was one final controversy over both Holly and Paul also originally being prostitutes. With the concerns of these and the usage of the word dyke in the novel, it was a risk to release the picture, but it was, and on October 5th, 1961, Breakfast at Tiffany's was released. The next film was an adaptation of Lillian Hellman's popular play, The Children's Hour, with similar themes of an LGBTQ character. The previews even included a warning for mature content.
But maybe I love you the way they said I love you. I don't know. Listen to me! I have loved you the way they said.
Charade finally teamed up Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, which many others had tried to do without success.
The film was a successful thriller. Cary Grant was in the last stages of his filming career, and he still was able to learn from Audrey. Audrey was steadfast in her beliefs of what should and shouldn't get released into the public. She spent many hours learning how the cameras worked so that she could tell people how to light her for publicity photos. She also made sure only the approved publicity photos got released. Cary Grant said that he learned a lot about that when he was filming Charade with her. Paris When It Sizzles paired her with William Holden once again.
After being rejected by her while filming Sabrina, Holden took a turn for the worst. The filming process was a gruesome one, often halting production to get Holden sober enough to film.
The wacky comedy turned out to be a good film, but Audrey did not enjoy filming with Holden again, especially when he kept trying to reignite a long-gone romance. Audrey's next film would be her last controversial one. It would also be the last musical she did. In the film production of My Fair Lady, there was a lot of heated conversations that were sparked up. With a $17 million budget at stake, Jack Warner had to make sure that this movie sold well. The first problem to spring up was, who will play Eliza, the main character?
Julie Andrews had played her for 3.5 years on Broadway, but they wanted someone more known on screen, so they turned to Audrey instead. Audrey only agreed to accept the part after she was sure that they were going to refuse to hire Julie. So, the training for the dances, vocal work, and singing began. Then another question came up. Audrey had had little singing experience, so the producers brought in Marni Nixon, a famous soprano, to dub over the role. So, after having gone through training to sing these songs, Audrey was dubbed in. The day she found out, she walked out of the studio. The next day, she returned and apologized for her wicked behavior. In the final film, Marni Nixon's voice still stands as dubbed over Audrey's.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
By George, she's got it. By George, she's got it. Now once again, where does it rain?
On the plain, on the plain.
And where's that soggy plain?
In Spain, in Spain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain. Bravo!
bed. Now say good night. Please turn out the light. Please, it's really time for you to be in bed. I could have come on home to get your toad. Or Mrs. Pierce is apt to scold. You're up too late. Miss, as sure as fate. Miss, you'll catch a cold.
Then comes the final blow to this film. That year, at the Oscars, everyone was nominated for an award, except Audrey, allegedly because her vocals were not used in the film. Instead, Julie Andrews won for her performance in Mary Poppins. Rex Harrison, who played the role for film and Broadway, accepted his award for Best Actor by thanking both of his fair ladies. The mistakes made were long forgiven, but the argument still stands by some film watchers of today. Audrey's film career started to lessen as she had enough money to settle with Sean. She starred in the romantic comedy How to Steal a Million. Next was the commentary film on the trials of marriage, Two for the Road. She starred alongside Albert Finney, where the two had an affair while shooting the movie. The message hit too close to home, and Audrey began to rethink her marriage to Mel Ferrer. Next was the thriller Wait Until Dark, another research-heavy film for Audrey. While playing a terrorized blind lady, Audrey studied at a school for the blind, learned Braille, forced herself to stare widely at someone with a blank gaze that gave the impression she saw nothing, taught herself to negotiate around a room with a stick, her eyes shielded by a blindfold, and became adroit at dialing a telephone and applying makeup without a mirror. Filming was also difficult as she got many bumps and bruises from not being able to see while she was filming dark scenes with complex choreography.
Don't touch that!
By this time in Audrey's life, her marriage with Mel really began to fall apart. He was still attached to promoting her career, but she wanted to focus on being a mother. She stayed in the relationship as long as she could, not wanting to have a repeat of what happened to her and her father. But eventually, the strain became too much. While filming Wait Until Dark, Mel produced, and after the film was released, they divorced. Her next relationship was with Andrea Dotti. This relationship Audrey held on to for a long time as well, despite the fact that Dotti was publicly going out with many other women. Again, Audrey did not want to leave her second son, Luca, without his father, so she stayed in the relationship.
Columbia Pictures presents Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn in Robin and Marian.
Audrey accepted this film because she wanted to make a film she felt her boys could enjoy, so she did this one. Next, she took part in an adaptation of the trashy drama Bloodline. Feeling very unhappy with how her marriage was going, she had a movie-long affair with co-star Ben Gazzara. Other than that, the film was a flop.
Let's go back to the hotel.
It's too far. Her next film, They All Laughed, was also accepted to keep her depression with her marriage at bay. Again, this film was considered a flop. Eventually, her marriage with Dotti got too much for Audrey to handle, and she divorced for the second time in 1982. By this time, Audrey felt both the boys were old enough to be with only a mother, and she carried on as normal. completing her last film before death in Always, where she appropriately played an angelic spirit. The film was directed by Steven Spielberg, who Audrey had dreamed of working with.
Hello, Pete.
Hello.
Hap.
Hello, Hap.
That was quite a show back there.
Yes, ma'am.
Take a seat.
Okay. Thanks.
Her last partner in life would be Robert Wolders, who was considered her life partner. They ended up living together, though they never officially got married. Audrey Hepburn is known mainly for her movies, but she also completed a lot of charity work with UNICEF. UNICEF played a big part in Audrey's early and late life. After World War II ended, UNICEF was the organization that provided relief packages to Audrey and her family. Now, at 59, she became a Goodwill ambassador for them. She accepted, saying, "I have been offered by UNICEF an opportunity to assist with any project on which I might be useful. This is for me an immense privilege and an answering to my longing to help children in whatever small way I can." And that's exactly what she did. Audrey and Robert spent most of their time working on any project for UNICEF that they could. According to UNICEF employee Krista Roth, she asked for no special consideration, and she got none, traveling all over the world to refugee camps and war-torn and disease-ridden countries. Audrey was quoted to say, "I auditioned for this job for 45 years, and I finally got it. I always felt very powerless when I saw the terrible pictures on television, but I was offered a wonderful opportunity to do something." Audrey was truly dedicated to the work she did with UNICEF. She felt it was a way to help others through the awful situations she herself went through as a child. She did all of her own research, reading hundreds of pages on different countries and about ways to improve the situations there. She wrote her own speeches and became a well-known spokeswoman for the organization. Audrey Hepburn began life in a war, and she ended it fighting against other wars. As we go through her life, even through her movies, we can see the impacts of her raising. Her poise, manners, and impeccable ability to be polite no matter what the situation. This being ingrained into her from her mother's Baroness ways. Her need to be a good mother and a loving person, from her experiences with her mother's cold presence and her father's abrupt exit. Her strict work ethic sprung from early training at Madame Rambert's. Her integration of war experiences into her films. Her unique way of influencing fashion from her wartime trauma. And finally, the love she bestowed upon the world to counteract all the hate she saw early on. This is why it's important to take a look behind Audrey Hepburn.